For the next presentation, we are joined by Danish Curasight, who are represented by CEO Ulrik Krasilnikoff and CSO Andreas Kjær. Welcome, Ulrik.
Thank you very much, Cecilia, and for being invited to this BioStock Life Science Summit. My name is Ulrik Krasilnikoff, and I'm CEO of Curasight, and I will together present the company with co-founder and CSO, Professor Andreas Kjær. First of all, we have a disclaimer about the forward-looking statements, so you have to make your own assumptions. First of all, some highlights about Curasight. Curasight is actually a phase 2 clinical stage company founded back in 2013, based on more than 10 years of research at Rigshospitalet in Copenhagen. Curasight has developed a diagnostic platform which is named uTRACE, and it is right now tested at several cancer types. And right now we have been tested on 8 ongoing or completed phase 2 clinical trials. uTRACE has been tested in more than 400 patients at Rigshospitalet, and by that proven to be safe. Besides, we also are tapping into a rapidly growing market, which is expected to grow fivefold within the next 10 years. Furthermore, we have a very strong IP position with issued patents both in the US and EU, so that's also very encouraging. Besides, we just have raised together with last year and now with the warrants around 95 million Danish crowns to pursue the strategy. Just some highlights since the IPO, since we went listed last year. First of all, we was awarded the 2 prizes earlier this year by the Independent IPO Guide. One for the excellent stock price development, and the second for quality of the company. Furthermore, we have initiated a preclinical study within the uTREAT option in brain cancer. And furthermore, we have reported and published the results from the phase 2 prostate cancer study in the Journal of Nuclear Medicine. And furthermore, we have extended the patents portfolio with granted patents both for in uTREAT and uTRACE. Besides, we have initiated a commission research analyzed cooperation with SEB. Just about the exercise of warrants, that has just been completed very successfully with an exercise ratio about 98%, corresponding to around 2.8 million new shares, which will give us additional cash around 47 million before issue cost. And that, together with what we already have in cash in hand, will give us around 75 million Danish crown cash in hand here in mid of October. If we look at the nuclear medicine market, just to show you that it is expected to increase rapidly, and that will Curasight also be part of, both in the diagnostic part and within the therapeutic part. Then I will give over the word to Andreas Kjær, who will take us through the portfolio.
So, I'm going to talk a little bit about the Curasight pipeline or portfolio. And one of the nice things with our technology is that it's currently tested in many different cancer types. But what we are focusing on and what we have raised money for so far is on the imaging part for prostate cancer and brain cancer with uTRACE, and for therapy uTREAT, it's the brain cancer we are looking into. Just to remind you about what Curasight's technology is based on, it's targeting uPAR. And uPAR is a cancer marker that is highly expressed in invasive and aggressive cancers, and to much lower extent in healthy tissue. And this makes it ideal both for imaging but also for therapy. As you could see on the overview of the pipeline, the many types of cancer tested in, there are many possibilities. But we started out in glioblastoma, a very aggressive brain cancer, and the reason for this is that there's a large unmet need. There are around 30,000 high-grade gliomas, these aggressive cancers. Up to 10% are in children. And all of these patients today, or most of them, receive external radiation therapy combined with chemotherapy. Despite this, the survival is only around 1 year. And we hope in Curasight that our technology will be able to improve this. So how does the technology look in brain cancer? This is uTRACE, and this is a brain cancer. This is an MRI scan, and you can see the glioblastoma sitting there in the brain. And this is uTRACE, so you can see it lights up. Red is the most hot area with most of the tracer. And so you can see that uTRACE gets into there. So first of all, this can be used for diagnosis. But since we have uTREAT that goes for the same target, we always say what you see is what you treat. So if this takes up our imaging ligand, it's likely also to take up uTREAT, the therapeutic ligand. And that's the concept, the theranostic principle. And targeted radionuclide therapy is based on a compound that goes for uPAR and then has radioactivity bound to it that is harmful, that performs radiation therapy locally with 1 millimeter range. And the advantage of this compared with external radiation therapy is that you inject it and it goes to every single cancer cell that expresses uPAR. With external beam, it's much more difficult because you have to also irradiate through healthy tissue. It might be easier to understand on this diagram here. Here you can see how uTREAT that is injected goes into the tumor where uPAR is expressed, and also if there are small islands, it will probably bind there. Whereas when you do external radiation therapy, you do this from different angles, but you have to irradiate through healthy tissue. And very often that would limit the amount of radiation you can give, and it will also carry side effects because healthy brain tissue is irradiated. So it is a more gentle way to do radiation therapy. And the market size I will hand over to Ulrik that will tell a little bit about what the potential is within brain cancer.
Thank you, Andreas. If we look at the brain cancer market size, it could be divided up both in the diagnostic path and also the therapeutic path. And if we look at the imaging part, which is the diagnostic part, it is estimated to around 200 million euro annually. And that is based on that around 65,000 each new cases each year has to be scanned during the year. And the calculation is based on similar reimbursement codes from the US at comparable PET tracer like NetSpot. So that is very similar or equal calculation that it will around sum up to around 200 million. If you look at the therapeutic part, then we are calculated it's around 5.1 billion euro annually. And that is due to that around the 65,000 new cases in brain cancer, 30,000 is considered to be the high-grade glioma, which we are pursuing at this stage. And that is a totally different price tag we have on that part. And again, it's calculated on similar reimbursement codes used in the US. So that is very attractive, the brain cancer market, both for the diagnostic part, but especially also for the therapeutic part. Yeah. Then I will give the word to Andreas.
Thank you, Ulrik. And I'll not take you through the other indication that is our first priority right now. In brain cancer, it was imaging and therapy. In prostate cancer, it is imaging diagnostic we're looking for. So in prostate cancer, which is a very common cancer, the problem is when I went to medical school, it was said you die with and not of your prostate cancer. And this is correct for most of the patients. The problem is it's not correct for everybody because there are some cases that will develop aggressively. But there's no good way to determine which of these cancers will become aggressive and not. And therefore, the problem is really to recognize the tumors that do not need aggressive therapy. And is this important? Yes, it's very important, because it's estimated that up to 80% of removals of the prostate gland, called prostatectomies, are unnecessary. And of these patients, up to 70% will become or get some degree of impotence and urinary incontinence. So it's not trivial to take out a gland that maybe would never have needed to be taken out. And this is what we try to solve with uTRACE. So the idea here is really, how can we determine in the low and the intermediate cases whether they are aggressive or not. And today it's done through taking biopsies, invasive biopsies, and doing pathology. But we want to replace this with imaging. It's much more gentle, and it's also, we expect, more accurate, because it does not have the sampling error. We see the whole tumor. And then based on this, we will decide what happened with the patient. So we, and to kind of make this come true, a study has been performed that correlates the image readout with the invasive biopsies to see whether it can be replaced. Before we go into that study, just to remind you how it can look, and this is an image with a uPAR PET tracer, and this is the prostate gland, and here you can see it lights up on the uPAR PET, and these are the two images fused. So the idea is this cancer lights up because it has a lot of uPAR in it, and therefore it's aggressive. If this would not light up very much, it would be a cancer that could have been left and be followed through what is called active surveillance. And the investigator-initiated study out of Rigshospitalet that was recently published actually demonstrated this correlation between biopsies and uTRACE imaging. And here you can see what is shown here. This is the imaging. How much does it light up on the scan? And this is how aggressive it is on the pathology, on the biopsies. And you can see it increases with increasing aggressiveness on the biopsies. So very encouraging, there is this correlation. And what we really want to do is to see who should be treated aggressively and who should be left under surveillance. And normally you can divide this between the Gleason score 3+4 and 4+3. And what we then studied is, if we use this as a cutoff, and we then established a cutoff on our scan, could we classify the patients in the correct classes? And all the green one going below over here, they demonstrate that yes, we can with very high certainty demonstrate the ones that have a low grade and therefore should not be treated aggressively. And this is what we really want to obtain, because this is what makes it possible to save biopsies and save unnecessary aggressive treatment. And for the market size here, I again leave the floor for Ulrik.
Thank you, Andreas. And just to read some about the potential in the prostate cancer business case, right now we're only focusing on the diagnostic part, and that is again based on similar reimbursement codes based on in the US market and also in the EU market. And actually it's around 500,000 new cases each year in EU and US together. And that is calculated with €3,000 per scan in the US and the half of the price in the EU. So that sums up to around €1 billion annually for the diagnostic part in prostate cancer. Yeah, and then Andreas will take us through the milestones.
Thank you, Ulrik. And on the upcoming milestones, everything here is uTRACE, the imaging is in orange and therapy is in green. And the important things are really that we will move forward in brain cancer with uTRACE. This is on the clinical side, and on the preclinical side, still in being tested in animals, we will also make ready for uTREAT. So there will be some major milestones obtained over the next year. And then going forward, we also have prepared for the prostate cancer study but that will be at a later stage. And I'll leave over to Ulrik again.
Thank you, Andreas. And this is just to give you an idea of the what is going on actually within the nuclear tracer company market and the acquisitions that have been accomplished the last 4 years. And recently, 2 transactions has actually been conducted with Bayer. They have acquired PSMA Therapeutics and also Noria Therapeutics. So still the big company is really stepping into this market. And this is just to sum up why Curasight is an attractive investment case. First of all, we do not see any direct competitors when we look into the uPAR PET-based imaging pathway and also focusing on the uTREAT pathway. We are very well used radiopharmaceutical, meaning that it has been tested in more than 400 patients successfully with uTRACE. We have a very strong IP position. And furthermore, we also have a second to none clinical trial portfolio, as it has been tested in the most common cancer disease. Furthermore, we do look forward to a huge potential in the theranostic pathway, where we combine uTRACE with uTREAT. And then we also have, I would like to highlight the cooperation with ACB, as they are covering Curasight through their commission and research. And also the range of the valuation of Curasight right now is interesting for investment perspective. Yes, and then I will hand over to Andreas.
Well, thank you so much for the presentation. And then I have a couple of questions for you. What would you say is the main focus in uTRACE and uTREAT right now?
Yeah, right now, as also shown in our presentation, the focus is on brain cancer, where we are planning for the phase 3 study in imaging, and then we are doing all the preclinical development to be ready for going into patient with a therapeutic option. At the same time, for uTRACE, we are also preparing for the prostate cancer use, but it was not part of the funding really only for preparing to it. But of course, now where we were very pleased that our shareholders did exercise almost all of the warrants, now we also have a financial position where we'll look into how we might be able to accelerate this part.
Yeah, and that leads on to the next question. How do you plan to position uTRACE and uTREAT?
Yeah, on these cases, we will try to, with the brain cancer, we hope to be out there very soon with doing a phase 3 study in imaging, and then we want really to become the theranostic in brain cancer, and we hope very much that will be game-changing, mainly for the benefit of the patients, but of course also for the shareholders. And on the prostate part, we hope we can accelerate it because we think there's a large unmet need, and we're very excited about what the investigator-initiated study demonstrated, and it was just as we hoped for. So we will do everything we can to accelerate this part of it.
And finally, then, if we zoom out a little bit, and you did touch on this, both of you in the presentation a bit, but how would you describe, just sum up, Curasight's potential on the cancer market, which is a huge market, of course?
I would think just as the market, I think the potential of Curasight is huge. I mean, we have a technology that is not, it's cancer specific, but not cancer type specific. And this makes it broadly applicable. And I think that's quite unique because many times you will develop a technology that goes for a target maybe only expressed in prostate cancer. But as uPAR is a marker of cancer aggressiveness, it's really expressed across most solid cancers. And that makes it, almost unlimited what we can do. And of course, what we will do is that there are these investigator-initiated studies undertaken currently. And when these data start coming out and are being published, we will have a in-depth look into what they tell us and where the opportunities are. And that combined, of course, always with what is the unmet need is there really a need for something in this type of cancer that can benefit the patient? And then, of course, we will take up those challenges and see whether Curasight can help providing a solution for that.
Well, we look forward to following you on that mission. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having us.